president's team responded directly to the headlines swirling outside the room.
Nothing in the Bolton revelations, even if true, would rise to the level of abuse of power or an impeachable offense. That is clear from history.
Before urging senators to ultimately reject the articles of impeachment.
It will show that we can come together on both sides of the aisle and end the era of impeachment for good.
More than an hour after his legal team concluded its defense, President Trump declined to weigh in as he left the White House for a rally in New Jersey. The Senate will reconvene to continue impeachment proceedings tomorrow afternoon. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Amna Navaz.
And we turn again to our Lisa Desjardins and Yamiche Alcindor. Lisa, I'm going to start with you. I know you've been talking with Republicans. What are you picking up in terms of their willingness to hear from witnesses?
There was a fascinating meeting today, Judy. After the White House, the president's team finished their presentation, all Republican senators gathered in the Strom Thurmond room, which is reserved basically for important moments like this, to discuss where they are and the way forward. Judy, they came out of that meeting, and clearly you could tell the issue is not settled among Republicans. And to be specific, Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, who's retiring, we've talked about him before, told our Daniel Bush he is not decided on the question of witnesses, and he wants to wait until after all of the senators get to ask their questions over the next 2 days before he makes that decision. What that means is it is not clear if there are 51 votes for or against witnesses. Also, I want to say I talked to Senator Kevin Cramer of North Dakota. He said you cannot underestimate the pressure on Republicans from the president and their base. But he also noted one thing. What's kind of going around the caucus the most is Alan Dershowitz's presentation, and they're talking a lot about the idea of whether whatever the president did, right or wrong, is it impeachable? That's something the president's allies are pushing the most with these undecided senators.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, Yamiche, to you, what about the kind of pressure the president, the White House is putting on these senators, and do they think that the defense did the job they needed them to do?
The president's legal team and the president feel pretty confident that they did the best that they could do with the president's call. Now, there was, of course, that conversation and that comment from the president's lawyer to the Senate saying this wasn't a perfect call, but they really built this case to say, look, the president didn't do what he's accused of doing. And then, of course, Alex Dershowitz comes up and says, even if he did do what he did, this is not impeachable. So they're really hammering that home. The White House has been in contact with senators from the beginning. They're going to continue to pressure senators to not vote for witnesses and to, of course, acquit the president. The White House feels a little shaky about the idea that there might be witnesses called, but they feel still very confident that the president will be acquitted. The other thing to note, of course, the White House is saying President Trump is keeping business as usual at the White House. Today, he released his Middle East peace plan. He also is on his way to New Jersey to go have a campaign rally. He has another one in Iowa. So the president and the White House are saying, as all this is going on, the president is still very focused on doing the business of the American people, even though, of course, the president on social media and in interviews has been very, very focused on this impeachment trial because he sees it as tied to his legacy.
So given all that, Lisa, and what you're reporting, what do we look for tomorrow?
Well, at last we get to hear the thoughts of senators themselves. Senators will be able to ask questions only in written form, but they can ask questions for the next 2 days. Each side will get 8 hours, and that will be a very telling sign, I think, of what has stood out to senators. I don't know if it will tell us where the votes are. We, of course, will keep talking to senators. After this question period for 2 days, then we will have the big day on Friday. There will be some arguments from both sides about whether witnesses, that discussion should be opened. Then there will be that vote over whether to open the witness discussion or not. That will tell us everything probably about both substance and schedule for the rest of the trial. Will it end in 1 or 2 days, or could it go on? Could we get a lot more information over coming weeks? Friday will tell us almost everything about this impeachment trial.
But that's after these next 2 days of the questions posed by the senators.
Right, and the senators have been sitting there for hours and hours taking copious notes. They have a lot of questions, and we'll start to hear them tomorrow.
So, Yamiche, finally, how is the White House preparing for that? Do they know what the Republican senators are going to be asking? How are they getting ready?
Well, the first thing is that the White House feels as though the legal team left senators with a lasting image of the fact that they played video of Democrats saying that impeachment shouldn't be too partisan and that there shouldn't be a partisan impeachment by vote. So they had played that video, and then they basically walked away and said, now the time is ready to get ready for these questions. We were just on a call with sources from the president's legal team, and they say essentially that they're ready for anything. I asked specifically, are you ready for John Bolton to testify? Is that something that you're preparing for? And they are essentially saying that they might be pressuring or saying that it's executive privilege and that he should not be coming before the Senate. That being said, there are Democrats who say the president already waived that tweeting and saying that he never told John Bolton that he.
Well, I don't want to go through that every single time.
Investigations to Democrats. The other thing to note, though, the White House's legal team is having to deal with new developments by the day because of this manuscript. We are told that no one outside of the National Security Council has seen the manuscript, but there's a chance that the White House's legal team has been briefed on it. They wouldn't answer whether or not that's the case, and because of that, they might still already have information that they're using to get ready for the senator's questions.
So much to follow. Yamiche Alcindor, Lisa Desjardins, thank you both.
Thanks.
And now we want to talk with someone who's been a juror in this impeachment trial. She is Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. She also, as you know, is one of the Democratic candidates running for her party's presidential nomination.
Isn't he a
Senator Warren, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So what do you make of the main defense now that the president's team has put forward that, frankly, even if he did what he's accused of doing, having a phone call with the president of Ukraine, asking them to look into the Bidens in return, possibly, for aid, that's not impeachable. In fact, nothing that the House alleges is impeachable.
So, look, I think it just kind of comes down to common sense on this. Think about if the shoe had been on the other foot. And if what had happened is the president of Ukraine had called and said to the president of the United States, you know, we need more aid, and that the president of Ukraine would be willing to dig up dirt on a political rival in return for getting more aid. I think we'd all look at that and say, that's bribery, right? And what happened here, at least this is what all the evidence shows, is instead of it starting in Ukraine, it started in the United States, with the president saying to the president of Ukraine, we'll release military aid and make an invitation to the White House if the president of Ukraine will dig up dirt on a political rival of the president of the United States.
So do you think this would have been a stronger case if it had been bribery instead of abuse of power?
It seems to me that that really is. It's technically not bribery because it didn't initiate in the same place, but I think that's the heart of what we're talking about. Is a president entitled to make decisions that are decisions about our foreign policy, about our national defense, about using taxpayer dollars for purposes of trying to promote himself politically or economically for his own personal benefit? And I think the answer to most Americans, regardless of your political party, is no, that's not right.
What about the other argument they made at the beginning of the presentation and then at the end again today, and that is, this is something that should be up to the American voters. This impeachment process is taking place just months away from the next presidential election. It's not up to the Senate. It ought to be up to the American electorate.
Well, you know, I kind of have a couple of feelings around that. The first is, remember exactly what's been alleged here. What's been alleged is that this is a president who was trying to interfere with an election, right? Not just something else going on fraudulently, but trying to interfere with an election. And that is exactly what everyone, I believe, is trying to protect, the integrity of the election
This ain't gonna happen.
Also, if the president's people are so confident that what the president has done is not a problem, then why can't we have witnesses and documents? Why can't we see the emails that were passed back and forth? Again, I think fair-minded people all across this country just want to see a fair trial. And I've never heard of a trial where you can't have witnesses and you can't have the documents.
Of course, all this is happening while you and a few other people are competing in the Iowa Democratic caucuses, which take place on Monday. Essentially, I hear you saying you think it's a good idea to have witnesses, even if it means you sit in that chair in the Senate longer and you can't get back to Iowa.
That's right. Look, There are some things that are more important than politics. This is only the third impeachment of a president in the history of the United States. I took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution is pretty clear. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. The way we hold him accountable is through impeachment. I took an oath, and I will be there as long as that trial needs me.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, the caucuses, about what's happening in Iowa and New Hampshire. The polls are showing right now you're slipping, Bernie Sanders is rising. How do you explain what's going on out there?
So, you know, it's funny you always say that. I really don't focus on polls and haven't from the beginning. I thought what you were going to start with is I just got endorsed by the Des Moines Register.
All right, you
And
can bring
I've
that
been
into the
endorsed,
question. But
right, and I've been endorsed by the Storm Lake Times. You know, what I feel, and that's all I can tell you, when I'm out in Iowa, is I feel how many people truly are off the sidelines and in this fight. People all across Iowa, and that's true whether we're in cities or rural Iowa, understand that for decades now, we have had a government that works just great for giant corporations, works just great for billionaires, works just great for the whole lobbying class. It's just not working for them. And when you've got a government that works great for those at the top and not for everyone else, it's corruption. And we have a chance in 2020 to turn that around. And that's why I think so many people are in this fight. People want to make this happen. That's how we're going to beat Donald Trump. I talk about what's going on for decades. Donald Trump has taken corruption to new lows. We're going to draw the distinction between a corrupt president and someone who's willing to stand up to those corporations. That's how I'm going to beat Donald Trump in November.
in this campaign, you are seen as competing for a lot of the same vote, many of the same voters as Senator Sanders. He's come after your campaign. We've seen some criticism, some flyers that were out there for a while. There was what happened in the last debate a few weeks ago where the two of you clearly ended up in some sort of disagreement over what he had said about whether he had told you that a woman could win. Have you spoken with Senator Sanders about all this? Where does that start?
Bernie and I have been
Yeah, I'm not
friends
gonna
for a
win
very
against
long time. We've worked
anybody.
together on a lot of the same issues. I've said what I'm going to say about this. But I'll tell you this, I am in this fight because I believe that I've got the best chance to win. You know, a lot of folks have asked the question, can a woman really win? And the world has changed since 2016. Once Donald Trump was inaugurated, you may remember what happened the very next day. Biggest protest rally in the history of the world. Women turned out and said, wow, I'm going to get deeper into politics. So what happened? In 2018, we took back the House. We took back state houses around this country. Why? Because of women candidates and women who got out to support and help make sure that Democrats got elected. What the data show are that women candidates have been outperforming men candidates in competitive elections since Donald Trump was elected. Let's face it, women win.
But you still have, Senator, it's clear from talking to voters, a lot of them still believe that they're worried that if a woman is the Democratic nominee, she won't be able to defeat Donald Trump.
There were a lot of people who worried a Catholic could never win back in 1960. A lot of people worried that an African American couldn't win in 2008. But we are a better party than that. We are a better country than that. The Democrats stepped up and said, we're going to nominate the person we think would make the best president of the United States. That's exactly what they did, and they changed America. This is our chance to change America in 2020.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Appreciate you joining us. Thank you. And to you, our viewers, please continue to tune in to our special live coverage of the impeachment trial when it resumes tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Check. As other news, President Trump rolled out his Middle East peace proposal. It envisions a Palestinian state with parts of East Jerusalem as the capital. It also recognizes Israeli sovereignty over major West Bank settlements. Palestinians condemned the plan, but the president called it a win-win for both sides. We'll take a closer look after the news summary. U.S. health officials ramped up efforts today to contain the spread of a deadly virus from China. 20 U.S. airports and other sites will now monitor for sick travelers. That's an increase of 15. So far, there are only 5 confirmed cases in the U.S., and Alex Azar, the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, is counseling calm.
I can maybe win this.
The risk to any individual American is extremely low. We are taking the steps to be prepared for this. We are taking aggressive action. But the individual American, this should not be an impact on their day-to-day life.
Meanwhile, in China, the U.S. State Department began flying American diplomats and others out of Wuhan, which is the epicenter of the outbreak. That came as Chinese
I didn't think I'd win, so I just put it on auto, but this looks winnable.
4,500 confirmed cases.
Probably would have been more winnable if I kind of tried from the start, but let's see here.
Who were killed in a plane crash on Monday. Their surveillance plane
I was sworn I was still in like the 20Ks with my ships.
Largely controlled by the Taliban. Officials say there are no signs the plane was shot down. A powerful earthquake and at least one heavy aftershock hit today in the Caribbean Sea between Cuba and Jamaica. The initial quake had a magnitude of 7.7 and was felt from South Florida to the Cayman Islands. There were no immediate reports of casualties or of heavy damage.
Why not?
The British government will let Chinese telecom giant Huawei build parts of its next-generation mobile networks known as 5G. The U.S. had warned against the move, arguing that Huawei would share intelligence with the Chinese government. But in the House of Commons, Britain's Foreign Minister Dominic Raab said the company's role will be limited to lower-risk parts of the 5G networks.
High-risk vendors should be, first of all, excluded from all safety-related and safety-critical networks in critical national infrastructure. Secondly, excluded from security-critical network functions. And thirdly, limited to a minority presence in other network functions up to a cap of 35%.
We'll hear more about the British decision later in the program. Back in this country, the head of Harvard University's chemistry department has been charged with lying about working for a Chinese recruitment program. Federal officials said that Charles Lieber concealed payments he received from Beijing. It was part of a Chinese program that recruits people with knowledge about U.S. technology and intellectual property. The U.S. budget deficit is expected to reach $1 trillion this year for the first time since 2012. The Congressional Budget Office reported today that Trump administration tax cuts and new federal spending are fueling the red ink despite a healthy economy. The last $1 trillion deficits came during the recovery from the 2008 Great Recession. And on Wall Street, tech stocks led a rally that recovered some of Monday's losses. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 187 points to close at 28,722. The Nasdaq rose 130 points, and the S&P 500 added 32. Still to come on the NewsHour, President Trump unveils his plan for Middle East peace. What is in it, and what will work? Espionage and the future of wireless technology. Chinese company Huawei versus the rest of the world. Plus, much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.
It has been an elusive goal for decades to end generations of conflict in the Middle East. Nick Schifrin unpacks today's plan from the Trump administration.
From his very first words, President Trump described what he's called the deal of the century in the context of Israel.
Today, Israel takes a big step towards peace.
Flanked by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, President Trump unveiled the most detailed peace plan in history. Over 50 pages, the plan endorses a Palestinian state, but it would not have control over its defense or airspace and wouldn't come into existence unless Palestinians met specific conditions.
Together, we can bring about a new dawn in the Middle East.
Here is today's map. The border since the 1967 war in yellow is the occupied West Bank. And this is the new peace plan's map. Israel would surround a Palestinian state, control a corridor along the Jordan border, including the Jordan Valley, and the homes of 97% of Israeli settlers in the West Bank would become part of Israel. The international community considers those settlements illegal, and Palestinians call the Jordan Valley the breadbasket of their future state. But Netanyahu used the announcement to launch unilateral annexation in the West Bank, which he referred to using biblical names, Judea and Samaria.
Israel will apply its laws to the Jordan Valley, to all the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, and to other areas that your plan designates as part of Israel.
President Trump said the U.S. would accept that, changing decades of U.S. policy.
And the United States will recognize Israeli sovereignty over the territory that my vision provides to be part of the state of Israel. Very important.
The map also changes southern Israel. These are Gaza's borders today. The new plan would expand Gaza with land given up by Israel and create a tunnel between Gaza and the West Bank to make a Palestinian state contiguous.
This is the first time Israel has authorized the release of a conceptual map illustrating the territorial compromises it's willing to make for the cause of peace, and they've gone a long way.
On perhaps the most contentious issue of all,
That's
Jerusalem.
gonna hurt.
Today, President Trump, by emphasizing two words, seemed to decide its fate.
Under this vision, Jerusalem will remain Israel's undivided, very important, undivided capital.
Yo,
The plan
Danny.
calls for the outskirts of East Jerusalem, already behind what Israel calls the security barrier, to become Palestine's
What's
capital.
up, bro?
This map will more than double the Palestinian territory and provide a Palestinian capital in eastern Jerusalem, where America will proudly open an embassy.
The Palestinians are not part of this deal, and they protested today in Gaza even before the release. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas rejected it outright.
After the nonsense that we heard today, we say 1,000 times no, no, no to the deal of the century.
That rejection, despite the plan providing Palestinians with $50 billion of economic
Kind of want to
investment.
auto this because I don't know this fight.
Since 1967, when Israel captured the West Bank and all of Jerusalem, the U.S. has tried to negotiate Middle East peace. In 1978, President
Most
Carter
stacks, a
hosted an
cycle
Israeli-Egyptian
beat
pact.
up.
In 1994, President Clinton hosted an Israeli-Jordanian pact. But Israeli-Palestinian peace has proven elusive. In 2000, President Clinton with Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Palestine Liberation Organization Chairman Yasser Arafat. In 2003, President Bush with Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. And in 2014, Secretary of State John Kerry with Abbas and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, all efforts that failed.
All prior administrations from President Lyndon Johnson have tried and bitterly failed. But I was not elected to do small things or shy away from big problems.
Why can't I use him?
And we get two views on this plan, and turn first to David Friedman. He is the U.S. ambassador to Israel and one of the architects of this plan. Ambassador Friedman, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the NewsHour.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Previous attempts, as you know, and as President Trump marked today, have failed at Israeli-Palestinian peace. Where do you think you can succeed where your predecessors have failed?
This is different. This is a hard offer from the Israelis for the first time in the history of this conflict, where the Israelis indicate that the terms on which they're willing to live side by side in a Palestinian state, the territorial dimensions of a Palestinian state, the conditions that need to be put in place before they would agree to live side by side a Palestinian state. This is different in terms of detail, in terms of really creating
I'm chilling.
a very clear pathway for Palestinian statehood.
Yeah.
And look, we think
Decent
the
day.
Palestinians should engage, and we're very grateful
Wanted to
that
sunbathe,
so
but the
many other
pool
countries around the world have issued such constructive
was
statements.
locked out, so I just kind of did it in front of my house, and yeah, did
Opportunity
some
for people
streaming.
to criticize them.
So decent
And
day.
there are specific details that the Palestinians are criticizing.
How
A couple
about
of
you,
them,
sir?
The territory of what is now the West Bank is shrinking. Everything on the Israeli side of the security barrier in Jerusalem is being given to Israel. Palestinians giving up control of their airspace and defense. No right of Palestinian refugees to return to their homes. Are you making a genuine attempt to engage with Palestinian aspirations?
Look, of course, Palestinians will criticize. I'm sure there are many Israelis that are criticizing as well. The question is, what do they do next? They're not going to get more by holding a day of rage. Though, if they want to address this, I suggest they follow the urging of the international community, which is being expressed so many different places, and come to the table and speak with the Israelis.
Let me get to that international reaction. The Arab countries in the region are so important. You've identified their interest as so important to the success of this plan. The Egyptians and Emiratis have encouraged both sides to study the plan, but there is a warning from perhaps the most important partner here. The Jordanian foreign minister has warned against the dangerous consequences of unilateral Israeli measures such as the annexation of Palestinian lands, the building and expansion of illegal Israeli settlements on Palestinian-occupied lands, and he said that those would violate international law and push the area towards more conflict and tension. Those actions are what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to do today after this plan was released. Do you fear this plan could increase conflict and tension?
Well, look, it shouldn't. We'll work more closely with the Kingdom of Jordan. As you know, the plan recognizes the special role of King Abdullah with regard to the Muslim holy shrines. We don't share their view on the law, but what I think we hope they come to realize is the vast opportunity that's created for a better life for Palestinians and, by the way, for Jordanians as well.
Do you acknowledge that a map that has no Palestinian state border with the Jordanian border and no requirement for Israeli settlements to be moved back or settlers to be moved into the future state of Israel, do you acknowledge that that map could make it difficult for Arab countries to support this?
I think Arab countries want to see the parties negotiating. These are terms that if the Palestinians care about them and want to discuss, they should come to the table. Look, we don't believe in evacuating settlements. We don't believe in evacuating Palestinians from their homes either. We think the Palestinians should give this a hard look. Look, they've got 4 years. We're not requiring that the Palestinians react to it immediately. The Israelis, at our request, are freezing the territory that is being allocated to the Palestinians for 4 years, no development. So time is not working against them. And they should take a deep breath, study the plan, identify what they like about it, identify what they don't like about it, and if they want to change it, they should sit down with Israel, and we're happy to facilitate those discussions.
And Ambassador, one of the conditions on the Palestinians is to pass human rights and corruption laws, stopping non-state actors, ending incitement, and building institutions. You've been part of the U.S. effort to cut off some of the assistance to the Palestinian Authority. How can Palestinians build those institutions if the U.S. won't provide the economic assistance to help them do so?
I think if we're at a point where the Palestinians accept this vision and indicate a willingness to create these institutions, and if there is a financial component to it, I'm sure we'd be happy to look at it.
So just to put a point on it, you are suggesting that there is an opportunity here for the U.S. to reverse its policy from the last couple of years and actually restart some of that aid to the Palestinian Authority?
Yeah, I think the ball is in Ramallah's court right now.
Ambassador David Friedman, one of the architects of this plan, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. A pleasure.
And for the Palestinian perspective, we're joined by Noor Oda in Ramallah. She's a political analyst and former spokesperson for the Palestinian Authority. Thank you very much. Welcome to the NewsHour. You were just listening to Ambassador Friedman say it's important not to revert back to old arguments. Why not at least pledge to be at the table for what is genuinely a different approach toward peace?
Well, it's a different approach, but I would say that it's not an approach for peace. What we saw presented today was an agreement between Trump, who wants to combat the impeachment hearings, and Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, who's struggling from corruption charges. Both have a vested interest in surviving politically and speaking to their base, and that's exactly what they did with this plan. But they certainly didn't speak.
And those take so long. I hardly ever do raid battles, but they're very important.
What Trump presented is an assault
on the very spend my whole life in this game.
States which have regulated peace and security for over 70 years. It flaunts international law. It legitimizes annexation. It legitimizes settlements, all of which are crimes under international law.
So engage with some of the specifics of the plan, not only an economic incentive, $50 billion, quite a lot, but also the argument that the ambassador made, which was a kind of unprecedented willingness of Israel to put a land swap on the map and give essentially Gaza more territory for the Palestinian state.
Right, more territory in the desert while it annexes territory that has the only water aquifer in the West Bank, and while Israel kind of discards part of its territory and Palestinian Israeli citizens in this so-called swap. Look, what we have here is not an arrangement for peace. It's an arrangement that allows the Israeli right wing to stay in power, that allows Israel to get rid of Palestinian communities and form some sort of whatever self-rule that Trump wanted to call a state.
The $50 billion is something that President Trump emphasized today. Jared Kushner, the architect of the plan, Ambassador Friedman, one of the authors, have emphasized. Is that appealing to a Palestinian population and perhaps a youthful Palestinian population that doesn't connect with their government, many of whom see as corrupt, but do want a brighter economic future?
Well, let me put it to you this way. The Israeli occupation costs the Palestinian economy 98% of GDP every year. The Israeli restrictions, the Israeli checkpoints, the confiscation of land, the restrictions on investment and development, the banning of Palestinian activity in the very areas that Trump now wants to allow Israel to annex in violation of international law, all of those cost us nearly our entire GDP every year. Ending the occupation is the fastest, quickest, cheapest way to ensure Palestinian economic prosperity, and we wouldn't even need the world to give us any handouts. This is a highly educated population, a population full of youth, full of vitality, full of energy, and entrepreneurship. All of that is being denied by the continued occupation, which the Trump plan basically offers an indefinite extension of, and that's why it simply doesn't work. $50 billion that Jared Kushner is talking about along with Trump will be wasted.
And quickly, in the time I have left, as you noticed, I read to Ambassador Friedman the Jordanian statement, which was implicitly critical of what Netanyahu was saying he was about to do. But I also noted that the Egyptians, the Emiratis, have come out and said, take this seriously. Are you worried that some of the Arab neighbors will not be on your side right now?
Well, look, ultimately a deal has to be struck between the parties to that deal. The Egyptians can welcome it all they want. They're not the ones who are going to be signing. The Emiratis can welcome it, as much as they want. They're not the ones who have to sign. It's the Palestinians. If the American administration doesn't reach a point where it can see the Palestinians as equals, equally worthy of prosperity and justice and freedom, then all of this is a wasted effort and just one more step putting the United States on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of international law.
Noor Oda, former spokeswoman for the Palestinian Authority, joining us from Ramallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As we reported earlier, the United Kingdom will allow the Chinese technology firm Huawei to build part of its new 5G cellular network. William Brangham reports that the U.S. government argues Huawei poses a national security risk and should have no role building networks for American allies.
That's right, Judy. Huawei is the largest manufacturer of telecommunications equipment in the world. It's also the second biggest cell phone manufacturer. The U.S. government argues Huawei is too close to the Chinese government, and letting the company build telecom networks leaves those networks vulnerable to Chinese espionage. Last year, in his series on China, my colleague Nick Schifrin reported on Huawei's efforts to build a suite of products called Safe Cities and how that technology might be used. Here's a short excerpt from that report.
It may look like an Apple event in California, but this is
what the fuck?
The presentation was for the Chinese company Huawei.
Well, the first 5G.
Last month, Huawei launched the world's first chip with integrated 5G, or fifth-generation technology. It will dramatically speed up phones,
5G,
and is designed to connect everything around us, transmit huge amounts of data instantly, and transform entire cities.
We're now walking on the floor that touches everything in your city.
Huawei Chief Digital Information Officer Edwin Diener shows off what Huawei calls a smart city. Closed-circuit cameras feed into a database with advanced artificial intelligence, and facial recognition can identify everyone, cross-reference license plates.
Oh, that deflection.
Huawei promotional
Ruined
videos
it all.
compares a combination of AI, 5G, and surveillance to how a brain processes information to control the body. The U.S. fears that Huawei's information isn't secure because the control is actually the Chinese government's.
To have Huawei operating as a 5G network in our country or in our allies' countries, we believe represents a fundamental compromise of our national security and the privacy of millions of citizens.
The UK's decision to allow Huawei in came despite months of intense lobbying by the Trump administration. In response, the US says it now might limit intelligence sharing between Western allies. Historian and journalist Garrett Graff has been covering Huawei for Wired magazine. Welcome back to the NewsHour. Can you talk a little bit more about this concern that we heard a little bit from Vice President Mike Pence there, the concern that the government has about Huawei and this national security concern?
Yeah, so 5G, the technology that Nick was just talking about, is going to be sort of the foundational underpinning of the next generation of your cell phone, your connected car, your connected refrigerator. This is going to be what powers American life and Western life and human life over the next decade. And the U.S. government and the Trump administration has spent the last 2 years arguing that allowing Huawei to build that network, to be sort of the people at the center of all of that information and data, is just too much of a risk, that is handing over too many sinister possibilities to the government of China, from sort of stealing and reading that data to the possibility of turning the networks on and off in a time of great tension with China.
So how real is that risk? I mean, what is the evidence for this? We saw Senator Tom Cotton recently equated allowing Huawei to build modern-day data networks as the equivalent of letting the KGB build phone systems back during the Cold War. I mean, is it really a Trojan horse?
We don't know, and that's part of what makes this this moment sort of so fraught for both Huawei and the U.S. government. I mean, the U.S. government says, look, the risk is just too big. It may be a Trojan horse, it may be not a Trojan horse. This is a company that, according to the U.S. government, has a pattern of intellectual property theft and economic espionage. It has a pattern, according to the U.S. government, of evading sanctions, U.S. sanctions, and doing business with countries like Iran and North Korea and authoritarian regimes in Africa. It helps enable the surveillance and the oppression of the Uyghur minority in northwest China. This is just a company we don't want to be doing business with. We don't want to take this risk. Huawei says, look,
the main party.
we're a plumbing
Well, I guess I
company.
could try and take.
It's not up to us to figure out, what goes through the pipes. We just build the pipes.
Yeah, Luke,
And they say that they are an employee-owned company, a private company in China. And Mr. Ren, the founder and sort of visionary behind Huawei, has said that he would rather shut the company down than ever compromise its customers' privacy or data. The U.S. government counters by saying you may not have a choice. Under what is known as the 2017 Chinese National Intelligence Law, it appears Huawei could actually be coerced and required to cooperate with Chinese intelligence if asked.
The UK, in its decision-making, said we're only going to allow what they admit is a high-risk vendor to have access to one part of their network, and they say this will be secure, that they can basically quarantine Huawei or other manufacturers from one part of it, and everything will be secure. Is that true?
So the UK has a very long history with Huawei as a key vendor of British Telecom, BT. And so they've just approached this issue differently from the U.S. They think that there are sort of these two sides of the coin, data access and network availability. And they're sort of making the choice that we can limit Huawei's data access to the network while just risking this open question about the network availability, whether Huawei could still turn the network on or off.
So they might have the ability to shut the system down, but they wouldn't be able to look at what was passing over the system.
Effectively, that's the gamble that the UK is making.
This works.
Last question, what does this do? I mean, the U.S. has said if you're building Huawei equipment into your networks, that threatens it makes us very concerned about sharing intelligence secrets if it's on a potentially vulnerable network. does this represent a long-term threat to U.S. intelligence relationships or not?
So it's probably pretty doubtful that much would change in the U.S. relationship with the UK. This is the closest special relationship. It's a special relationship. The intelligence partnership, national security partnership that we have with the UK is the closest, tightest relationship that we have with any country in the world. The bigger challenge and sort of the long-term door that the UK move opens is if you are any other country facing the high-pressure campaign from the U.S. to block Huawei from your systems. If you're Germany, if you are Poland, if you are Italy, and you were sort of already on the fence, you're probably going to look at this decision and say, well, if the UK can get away with that, so can we.
Garrett Graff, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Why is that dude getting so much shield?
One of the most critically acclaimed films of the year, nominated for 10 Academy Awards, is The Irishman. And one of its stars is among the best actors of many years, Robert De Niro. Jeffrey Brown sat down with De Niro recently at the New World Stages in New York City for Canvas, our ongoing arts and culture series.
I heard you paint houses.
Yes, sir, I do.
It's an epic of American organized crime and political life in the 20th century. The Irishman is directed by Martin Scorsese, but the idea for it originated with his longtime friend and collaborator, Robert De Niro. After he read the Charles Brandt book on which it's based, I Heard You Paint Houses, code for mafia killings.
Once I read it, I said, Marty, you got to take a look at this because...
Why? What was it?
It had just, the character was great. All the things he described were very real. And the situations, the way he talked, everything. It had historic characters like Jimmy Hoffa, Joe Gallo, even how they were killed, and it had a size to the historical panorama, if you will.
Hiya, Frank. This is Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah. Glad to meet you.
Well, glad to meet you, too, even if it's over the phone.
The story had all that. The film has De Niro as Frank Sheeran, a World War II veteran who becomes a mafia foot soldier and hitman, working his way up. It's an all-star cast, some of the greats of the era, including Joe Pesci as Russell Buffalino, a crime boss who takes Frank under his wing, and Al Pacino as the headstrong labor boss Jimmy Hoffa, for whom Frank works. The real Hoffa disappeared in 1975, presumably murdered.
Doesn't work.
He was declared dead in 1982.
What's the matter with you? You look concerned. Yeah, I know, you look concerned. What are you concerned about?
Tony told the old man to tell me to tell you. It's what it is. He's been given a very clear warning to be careful.
They wouldn't dare.
But he's not listening. He's just going off, and I'm like, what am I going to do?
And it's not giving away too much to say you don't convince him.
No. I mean, he's a little
He just grows. What
In
the
real life,
flip?
like his Irishman character, De Niro is a man of few words. A lifelong New Yorker, he grew up in Greenwich Village, the son of two artists, and credits acting with helping overcome shyness as a child.
Being an actor enables you to play other parts, have other experiences, limited in some ways, of course, by getting to know a character, being in that world. So it kind of forced me to look into this world. What's that about? What's that character? What's the reason for their behavior?
Let's play something else.
Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull.
Jake LaMotta, ladies and gentlemen.
Just one example among many of the lengths he would go to transform himself into his character.
Never got me down.
And the list of great performances goes on and on. In the comedy Analyze This, he even had fun with his own, by then, well-recognized mannerisms and acting style.
Well, this is where you make.
What about your books? Already read.
In all, some 115 films to date, a 7-time Academy Award nominee with 2 Oscar wins.
I use elements of my character, myself, that I feel will work for the character. Personalize it, if you will. It's a conscious process. Something feels right, I might not even know why, but it feels right for this. Can we try it? Say if I'm working with Marty, I'll try something. I'll say, well, what do you think about this? Say, yeah, okay, try it. Sounds okay. I'm not sure why. You know, it just feels right.
So it's a craft, right?
It's a craft, and there is a mystery to it. I always feel that whatever works, as long as you don't hurt yourself or anybody else, it's okay.
What gives you the most satisfaction when you're acting?
When it's a scene is, I feel done to its maximum, if you will, and then it has the effect that you want, and that could be after when it's put together. Not, I might feel that way doing the scene from my end, and say if I'm doing that scene with Al, I look and I say, no, he's great. I'm actually responding as moment to moment in real time as I feel I can, so that feels good. Now, how will it be put together, and how will it be? What kind of an impact will it have? That makes me happy if it works.
Do you teach actors or give advice to young actors?
Well, I give advice if they ask for it. What I say to actors, young actors, if they're going for a reading, for example, assume that you're not going to get the part.
Very practical.
Yeah, and but just so that can free you to try things in your reading. What do you care? You're not going to get it, so try it. Try whatever you think, even if it's a little off the wall. Just act as if you don't have the part. It frees you in a way.
The Irishman drew attention for its extensive use of digital technology to de-age the actors, allowing De Niro and others to appear to be decades younger. At age 76, he's joked that the technology will allow him to prolong his career indefinitely. But will he? The Irishman is itself a kind of meditation on aging and mortality, even bringing together a group of great, now older actors.
It's about the relationship, with family relationship, about getting older and dealing with all of that, and that was the appeal of it.
Did it end up feeling like a kind of culmination for you? I mean, it is a sort of gathering of a tribe in a sense, right?
Yeah, I felt that, and I don't know if we would ever be doing another movie together like this, and so it felt right, and to have Alan and Joe and Marty directing us, that was great if it could happen.
You don't know the first thing about me, pal.
That hardly means an end to acting, though. De Niro also appeared in this year's acclaimed Joker film, and he remains busy planning new projects, including another with Scorsese that will co-star Leonardo DiCaprio. Why keep working?
Oof. That's what I'm going to do. What else am I going to do?
No.
Last week saw another honor, a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Screen Actors Guild. An outspoken critic of President Trump, De Niro used that platform to defend his right as an artist to speak out.
If I have a bigger voice because of my situation, I'm going to use it whenever I see a blatant abuse of power.
In addition to starring in The Irishman, Robert De Niro served as one of the film's producers. He'll be at the Academy Awards next month when it vies for Best Film at the Oscars.
I don't want to stay rushed, sir.
Slip it out, so it works.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Jeffrey Brown in New York.
Feel good?
Yeah.
The best ever. We hope he keeps on doing it forever. That is the NewsHour for tonight. I'm Judy Woodruff. For all of us at the PBS NewsHour, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by
Colette guides travelers to experience the world in more than 160 destinations across 5 travel styles like small group explorations. Their inclusive tours feature local guides, cultural experiences,
Oof, Sabine hitting like a truck. Ooh. Is it time for Arrow? I think it is.
To Hong Kong, but also Hong Kong travellers to the mainland, and the number of commuters must be reduced substantially both ways.
Well, it's the World Health Organization website. It's issued traffic.
See you later.
There hasn't been one episode this year.
Oh, they had like a little documentary type thing go on before it, huh?
Whether they know it or they don't, advice me.
The final season.
Great.
It's not just a series finale that we're doing, it's that the entire season is the series finale. We think the first 7 episodes this year.
Oh man, these 3 are going to be a bitch.
The way they did this season 8, is beautiful.
Welcome to Russia. My favorite American.
The episodes feel very cinematic. Every episode is a tribute to every single season. It's really beautiful.
Sweetheart, you are a hero. You are.
We also wanted to say one last goodbye to all the characters that have been so important to the series and to all of our...
Why are you still doing what you know? If I'm wrong, then all of this is for nothing. I feel like I've given more and felt it more than any other season we've done. If the monitor can't fix this, if he is not here to help, then all of these things that I've sacrificed and all the things that so many other people have already sacrificed will have been for nothing. Everyone's really brought their A game in terms of creating this testament to all the seasons.
I would have thought the defense down would have stuck.
And a reward, a big pot of gold for all the audience that has enjoyed the show over this period of time.
Woohoo!
Because of the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Ooh, man, he's hitting like a truck. Man, that sucks. Alright, maybe if I try him first. I'll try killing him first. The other ones don't hit that hard anyways.
The person has sacrificed his life. It just felt the most fitting way to end the show. You're gonna be fine, alright? You're going to be fine.
I hope when people look at the totality of his journey, redemption for him was saving the city. It's almost time. Almost time. Yeah. And, I feel like he did it. This final episode is sort of a love letter to say thank you for coming along on this journey with us.
Yes. Oof. That was difficult.
I hope they have enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed playing these characters.
This city needs a hero without a mask. It needs more lit. I hope that the fans that have been there from the beginning remember different seasons that were their favorites and different moments that were their favorites. Thank you all
That was my own fault.
so much for doing this.
I think I had an opportunity to give Urza the thing and I didn't take it, huh?
Everything the show was and how the whole universe changed.
I hope that fans are left feeling satisfied, like there was closure after 8 years.
Yeah, I really hope this isn't the last
The peepees.
To OTA, original American. Sorry, I didn't hear it. What was that?
Growing on me. It's changed my life more than any other artistic thing I've ever been a part of. Took a bullet for me. It was a transformative experience for me, and I will remember and be grateful for the rest of my life. They were very human. To play cards. Now I'm part of this universe, right? Still counts on me. For me, as a comic book, it was superhero geek. It was just a dream job. It will carry on your legacy. Sounds like a cycle for me.
I wonder if he actually is a geek or he's just saying that.
We've been really fortunate. Not goodbye until next time.
I think there's so many different facets that people can really connect to with our show, and that have brought the fans through this journey with us, which is so incredible. These are two of the most genuine people in the world, and they deserve all the happiness, and I'm so fortunate to call them my friends. It's just been a beautiful experience to be a part of and to be around a cast and a crew.
Oof, oof, oof.
Celebration.
It's very emotional. It's unbelievable. It's the end of an era. I am just glad that I found partners that I can trust.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're all feeling sad to say goodbye.
You can only be proud when you got to do 170 odd episodes of television. Green Arrow popped up on our TV. It reminded me that this city is worth saving. It's been amazing for me to feel like I've been embraced by the fan base in the way that I have. I don't want to waste the time that I felt was being angry. To you.
Everyone involved in Arrow has such heart. Thank you for letting me be a part of your story. And has such passion for this story and really cares about making it something special. It's good from the last.
Yes, something tells me you're going to create your own stories.
Don't miss. Oh man, but no stagger.
The show that's created a whole universe. You. Well, my family, son. I feel proud. But sad. You're a really good father. So are you. I am an example.
It's been a family, and now we're all going our separate ways.
I feel like I'm always asking you favors. Anything you need, we're always. I think it's made for such a unique series that I can't imagine myself working on its kind again. Because I can never let a brother go to battle alone. I feel like I'll be failing you. You could never fail me. Well, how long do we have? It's never, to me, it's always been that way. Don't you mean the best man you've ever known? I also mean that. The friendships that I've gotten a chance to make along the way with the crew and the cast. It's been transformative.
Ah, I should have tried to stagger the other one. Come on, die. Oof. Hera is carrying this team. No! Don't let us die. No. 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 Yes! Alright. I don't have to do that anymore. Can auto it.
After 5 years in hell, I returned home with only one goal: to save my city. For 8 years, I fought alongside brave men and women striving for justice. But then, a crisis came, and I had to become someone else. I had to become something else. I made the ultimate sacrifice. An entirely new universe. Now my friends and family.
I don't need to. I should go for Boba. Bum 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 bum.
My children will live.
people that knew my son best tell me that when Oliver sacrificed himself during the crisis, that somehow he's the reason that everything changed. That the world we're living in right now is a kind of gift from him. And I'm just trying to process this.
The auto wasting it. Cool. These characters are strong enough now. I just recently started collecting them.
When I started this project, it was intended to explore the history and the pitfalls of vigilantism in Star City. And I thought this documentary would have to be retooled to be a memorial.
Nothing really ever happens the way you expect. And that was certainly the case with Oliver and his mission. He always said he would go it alone. That the mission would never be over. I'm glad he was wrong about the first one. Okay, what's wrong about second?
Thank you. That was very moving.
Yeah. Hey, brother. You alright? Pretty good. Why do I get the sense that answer disappoints you? I just can't believe it. Let's go. When Oliver rebooted the universe, he fixed things. Ever since the crisis, crime in Star City disappeared overnight. Literally. He saved the city. Yeah. Come on, it's time. Ferocious. Go on. I know you speak Russian. Without messing with all the races every time we drink this stuff.
What exactly is this?
Vodka. Yeah, it tastes like turpentine.
Seeing him in nail polish remover.
So what's the plan?
I plan on getting as drunk as humanly possible.
No, I mean after the funeral. From what Donna tells me, there's not much need for vigilantes anymore. Lance's term ends in April. He endorsed him to replace him. His mayor? No, as a bald guy with an attitude. Yeah, his mayor. What about you, Lee?
Mayor, for now at least, Lance actually just offered me a promotion to chief of police.
You guys never know how this looks. I just don't feel like this is over.
You're not reading the same Comstat reports I am.
We want to move out of this crisis. There's tons that we don't know. What I do know is this. The roller is still on. It's a mission. A spark. Finally, what the hell happened? Jim Terrell gave me a few problems. About a few dozen men armed with knives? No, I mean 22 with machetes. Are you sure you're doing this alone? Yeah, man, you know how I feel, Dale. Yeah, well, when I signed on, I told you I was going to keep the body count low, but it includes you. Fine. It's irrelevant? Well, let's talk. What's this? Next name on the list. John Byrne. CEO of the beer from the SG's deserving arrow between the eyes. The company at the front is using his trust to vary a very different type of commodity. You understand? People. You're trapped. What is this, Dan? How many names are on your list? You're ready to cross off. Listen, Diggle, this doesn't end. The mission is never over. Today's finale of Arrow is brought to you in part by Boost Mobile. This is painful. I bet. I can't load anything. You should switch to Boost Mobile. You get 4 lines for $25 per line per month on their super fast network. Look, there's a Boost Mobile right there. You even get 4 free Samsung Galaxy phones when you switch. Oh, wow, 2 of them? No, 4 free phones.
Switch to Boost Mobile and get 4 lines for $25 per line per month with unlimited data and 4 free Samsung Galaxy A20 phones on our super reliable, super fast network. Step up with Boost Mobile.
Man of Gotham! Go show those little birds. I own this.
Ladies, prepare us to work together. Would you?
Who's having a good time? You are.
Hi, boys. I'm the one that should be scared of because I'm Harley freaking Quinn.
Harley Quinn. Ray, rated R. Experience in IMAX. Now only at Domino's for $7.99 each. You can carry out all 5 crust options with any 3 toppings.
Yeah, I would do gluten. Right.
Try adding gluten-free crust to the invite list, or carry out any of our 5 crusts for just $7.99 every day, only at Domino's. Hello, son. Yeah, not cool.
Meh.
You know what's not
Why not?
really cool? Old Spice After Hours and Jack. Yeah, I prefer ultra smooth. They handle sweat without all that jazz. You're right, son.
Try Drive Up at Target. Delivers to your car door so you can do more.
I bet my game's too loud. I'm sorry, y'all. I bet my game was too loud. I forgot. When I stream off the phone, I have to put it on the lowest possible volume.
Magazine covers and elevator weight sensors? Cowards! I'm just a little on my car. Oh, really? What kind of car you drive?
Congrats, kid. You got your own car with your own insurance. No more driving that old hand-me-down.
That's the same one, huh?
Hand it down to my little brother.
Me? Yeah. Surprise! No.
That beige Betty, you can't give this to me, seriously? My car is like a rite of passage.
How do you expect me to drive this? Just turn the key and it's just, it's automatic. Dual cup holder.
Go with the one that's here to help you go right. State Farm.
The golden age of Hollywood and the height of organized crime. The real golden age.
We're here to help. I hired your partner to protect me from my boyfriend, Benjamin Secret.
Wow. That was the worst attempt yet. I want to move on to Marvel already. I'm probably gonna just play Marvel and that's it. Oh, wrong one. Poop. Okay, I know what I gotta do. I gotta give it to him off rip.
I portable to my door, but I guess I fetish out the mark a bit. It's a nice one. Yeah, with time traveler, remember? Right, okay, and why did you time travel here? Because I'm here to take you to your father's funeral. You doing okay? When am I ever not okay? I don't think any of us are really okay, but seems to be having it really hard. I'm fine, like always.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did Oliver call this thing?
He called it the Mark of Ford. How you doing?
I was just nervous about the funeral.
Yeah.
Not this
Oof, 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 oof. Damn it. Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna. How do I do this without losing one or two people? Ooh, wow. Let's try taking out the Geonosian first. Or you know what, with low damage, maybe we'll be alright.
You know what I think? I don't think you really want me there. No, thanks for finally getting my point. I don't think you want me there because you're afraid I will stop you from committing cold-blooded murder. You think that your goal is to keep fine counsel. There's a way you can stop him tonight without killing him. You can take him to prison. You speak of justice deserves the man nothing. Killing him is justice. But at what cost? You say you wish you never get to trust people a lot sooner. If you lose who you are.
It's flipping ridiculous.
Please explain what you're doing here. Well, sister shut up. I might enjoy it, I guess. What are you doing with all this stuff? I my best to tell my mom. Sorry, Derek dropped me off. She gave me a collection of not Linky but future. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I meant to. I portaled your front door, but I guess I overshot the mark a bit. This is a nice room. Time portal? Yeah, the time traveler, remember? Right. Okay. And why did you time travel here? Because I'm here to take you to your father's funeral.
Chopper's so weak though. Let's see.
I was supposed to try this sooner. That's a hard action. That's because you're on the other side of the telephone poles.
You doing okay? What am I ever gonna do?
I'm not sure I'm gonna do alright here, but let's see.
I'm fine, I promise.
Right.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what did all your call this thing?
He called it the Marker 4. How are you doing?
I'm just so nervous about the funeral.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be there.
Imagine both of all of your sisters could be there.
Kind of want to see abruptly.
You're worried about an awkward reunion.
I'm worried about any kind of reunion.
Well, hey, look at it this way. After fighting your career soldiers and Anakin was killed, and your ex-girlfriend should be taken.
That's why I'm scared. I don't want him to be my ex-girlfriend.
So when's Felicity getting down?
I don't know if she's coming.
It's her husband's funeral, man.
Exactly why I think she might mess up. I don't know today. Since Danny watched it.
Well, easier than I thought.
At least bring me for backup. Every time you get the over this deal, you know Ricky Bryce Financials. Every month he gives over $1 million to his outfit called Black Armada. You know where they are?
Come in. Arrow. One of the superhero ones.
Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Get her now. Yeah.
Hmm?
Cuando cogió un poquito está saboreándola.
Mm. When he does that. When he does that.
Sorry. Derek dropped me off. She gave me a whole lecture about not going to the teacher. So. A few weeks before Sarah showed up, something happened. What we do is not easy. There are such tragedies. God, to see your mother, you would be so proud. But how you're carrying all of that. Why can't you do the one thing you've lived his entire life to do? Protect my family. What's this? Your mother's archery protocol scans news stations for certain keywords.
On the sea, South Florida.
There's more to you.
Ooh. Oh, Deathstroke. I thought it was Deadshot. Ooh.
I'm sorry about the way that I left.
Ollie just passed away and William's been kidnapped, so our apologies about your timing. A little not great.
You still think Oliver's mission's finished until that's away and we get him back.
We will get him back. John William was kidnapped outside of Star City. He's back to my city.
Yeah, we just radio silence. That's their chocolate.
I haven't seen that many people down here in a while.
I'm traveling to quad with those cats with Eagle Silent.
Batteries are kind of make up the for one upgrade, but fortunately, when we're in central city is overburning, but mom is fine with children will try for the best to the farm. Ethical, but it won't. Which my garden is your name source.
Well, that's convenient at least.
1 second as I work up a statistically correlated list of possible locations it could be at.
That is a very long list.
Which is exactly why we call it technology.
Thank you all for coming. Someone very short notice. transport industry.
Alright, well, let's go.
Hey, can I talk to you for a second?
You already did back at the bunker, okay? I get it. You're sorry,
I never told you why I left.
and you don't need to. I understand you were going through a lot.
Dying, getting resurrected, gave me a whole new perspective on everything, including you. I got my whole life back, and I realized that I wanted you in it. Forever. And always.
And what does that mean?
It means, will you marry me? Yeah. I would have fired some shots in the air. What am I scarier? So, how are things? It's been a while. Yeah. Well, a while is what it took for these rags to work again. Since then, I forget this. Tommy and Father. Father Oliver. You're the most like him.
He's not here.
Chris, there's a bunch of places he's still be.
We need to find him.
We will.
We have to find him, Johnny.
Will, are you okay?
All of the Perro family got together. What happened this... We can't do this anymore.
I know. I think we can. We will, I promise. We will.
I'm not sure if she's talked to her mom.
¿Y esa Robin Hood? La esposa es Robin Hood, la hija es Robin Hood. La prima es Robin Hood.
Something like that. I can't fast forward anymore. I caught up.
With Domino's $5.99 mix and match deal, you can feed a family of 4 for about $3 per person. Come on. Or your daughter can. Feed a family of 4 for about $3 per person with the $5.99 mix and match deal at Domino's. Start 2020 off. Deal with the iPhone 11 that will have you seeing double. Right now, switch to T-Mobile and get 2 lines unlimited for only $90 and 2 iPhone 11s on us. All on T-Mobile's newest, most powerful signal that goes farther than ever before. Get twice the deal with 2 lines unlimited for $90 and 2 iPhone 11s.
$45.
Only at T-Mobile.
Pero tiene que ser nuevo customer.
Good ideas catch on fast. Good clean food, even faster. Order Panera for delivery, catering.
For my daily sun. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. I went to the pool. And I'm like, the pool chairs? They're good for that, so that's where I'm gonna go when I want my sun. Today it was locked though. I think they were doing the maintenance.
Oh, no se podía entrar.
Yeah, I had to lock the one because it has two, the door and then that one.
Can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver,
No sabía que era cerrado.
serious allergic reactions.
What's today? Tuesday. Oh. I'm pretty sure they designed him with Robin Hood in mind.
Pero todos los superheroes que hay, no todo lo que yo estoy viendo es cosa del pasado.
Yeah. A lot of storytelling is like that. They use influence. It's hard to be original anymore with all the stories we've told in all these years. Oof, they went in on this one. This is a very long action scene.
Todito y ahora.
Since it's the last episode, they're trying to put a little extra in there, I think.
You have failed this city. Brought him up here to throw him off. My whole life ended right here. I don't care. I thought you were saving me. The years in Ironheart never saved anyone.
Take it up, son. Maybe first life I can put this arrow in you right now.
After 8 years in prison, I got nothing left to live for anyway. Go ahead.
No. All the queen get children, then neither will I. Would you rather come back? This is the library. This is the arrow shop. This is the fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that I don't know how to. Sure can you.
You actually had good parents.
No either? I don't know.
Yeah, she hasn't seen her hee-ha.
I'm here, but she's at home.
waiting for me. And I can see her grow up. Hey, something in the news you should see. All right?
William Clay was safely recovered from his kidnapper John Byrne. Apparently, the abduction was prepared for Oliver Queen bringing Byrne to justice 8 years ago. Here's exclusive footage of the rescue. With Oliver Queen, Byrne dead, we can only speculate that he inspired a new generation of heroes who carried on his mission.
Like I said.
I've got a very important job for you. Me? Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. They're all connected to infinity
And beyond.
and beyond.
You know I'd love to be there. It's just super far. That's not that far. We have unlimited data. We can chat all we want. I'm comfy.
But it's like 10 feet.
Like I said, super far. It's time to step up, prep up.
Step up, prep up.
To help keep you free from the risk of HIV. From the makers of Truvada, a new PrEP option. Descovy for PrEP, a once-daily prescription medicine that helps lower the chances of getting HIV through sex. It's not for everyone. Descovy for PrEP has not been studied in people assigned female at birth. Talk to your doctor to find out if it's right for you.
Step up for health and body.
PrEP up for your one and only love, or many loves. Her king, this queen, and you royals in between. Come on now.
Our now.
And my future. Our future. Step up, prep up. Descovy is the newest way to PrEP. Descovy does not prevent other sexually transmitted infections, so it's important to use safer sex practices and get tested regularly. You must be HIV negative to take Descovy for PrEP, so you need to get tested for HIV immediately before and at least every 3 months while taking it. If you think you were exposed to HIV or have flu-like symptoms, tell your doctor right away. They may check to confirm you're still HIV negative. Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Real-life-threatening side effects included buildup of lactic acid and liver problems. The most common side effect was diarrhea. Tell your doctor about all the medicines and supplements you take for kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis. If you have hepatitis, you should stop taking Descovy without talking to your doctor.
Todo lo que le puede pasar por la vaina esa.
It's right for you. Words are
No
louder.
me digas, right for me.
Step up.
With Descovy for PrEP. Get help paying for Descovy for PrEP. Learn more at stepupprepup.com.
They said that the worst one was diarrhea, but I'm like, sex and diarrhea don't really go together. Oh yeah, they said that.
Carajo.
Or like that diarrhea was the most prevalent, that it happened the most, I think, yeah.
And despite all odds, refusing to give up hope. No matter where we come from or how we choose to serve. We are nurses. West Coast University, 1 degree, endless opportunities.
We've all been caught by the dreaded speed trap. Call the Ticket Clinic. We've resolved over 3 million traffic ticket cases across the nation and have a 98% success rate in Florida. With an affordable price and free consultation, you've got nothing to lose. Hiring us is easy. Just call, email, hire us online, or download our free app. For Let's consider